Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Saturday morning, early in the morning here, where we're discussing biblical personal development and self leadership. My name is Antonio Cheeks, and we're about to get started in just a moment here. I know people are trying to get themselves together. I'm trying to get myself together. You know, when you go live, you like, man, I got so much time to get this thing ready. I got so much time to get myself together. Then you look at the countdown and it's like you got 5 seconds to get going, and then you don't have as much time as you thought you had. But anyway, we're here. And today, what I wanted to do, we've been going through here on our channel, taking the next step. And our team just want to say thank you. On behalf of our team, we just want to say thank you for hanging out with us, whether you be live or in the replay. We just want to let you know that we appreciate you. I am Reverend Antonio Cheeks, and I happen to just be the speaker for today. And there will be, you'll see different speakers as we continue through these sessions. But I just want to let you know that we appreciate you. We appreciate you getting up with us and joining us on this journey, and so we can just figure out, what is it that we're called to do? What's our purpose? How are we designed? Because there's a lot of gurus talking about personal development. They're talking even about, my what I love is self leadership. They're talking about that as well. But what we find is that when we put the godly spin on it, it's a little more powerful. When we put God in it, there's more impact in what we can do. So, good morning to those, Sonia, Karen, that's already in here. I'm warming up. Y'all pray for me. It's almost like every Saturday. Well, for the last couple of weeks, I've had this cough that has really just been trying to hang on. So you can put your Southern remedies in the chat, in the comments if you want. One of my favorite was onion syrup or onion syrup. They used to do something with onions to make this type of syrup, and you would drink that. And for me, it was like it worked. So if you got something, go ahead and put that in the chat or the comments, and we'll take a look at that to see if that makes any sense. So let's go ahead and recap. I'm just looking up here. I got a lot of notes for you guys today, so I'm gonna take my time and slow down because I'm already seeing myself starting to speed up. So again, just want you to know that we are talking about not just any type of personal development, but biblical personal development, and particularly on this station, what do you do to take the next step in there? So that's what we're talking about. And last week, we started talking about what's in your hand. We discovered that what's in your hand refers to things like your gifts, your talents, your skill set. It could be your vocation that you are in, whether it be in ministry or the marketplace. That's your hand. And God has given us something in our hands to do. And it's our job. And this is vitally important because whatever that thing is, whatever it is that's in our hands to do, it will actually help us do our life's purpose, what we were created to do. Instead of looking elsewhere for, you know, uh, um, the reason why we exist, God has placed it in us before we were even formed in our mother's womb. That is significant and key. And so we hung out a little bit. We looked at a couple of scriptures, and then we hung out at Moses. We was in Exodus 4, looking at Moses and how Moses, when he had an encounter with God, they had this, I guess, kind of a debate about whether or not he was going to, imagine that, debating God about what you're going to do. Don't look at Moses so crazy, because we do that too. We have that obedience thing. God has told us to do something, and we're just tiptoeing around that thing. We have not done it, and we know we're supposed to do it. So when we look at these individuals in the Bible, don't look at them too hard now, because there's some things that we're doing that is exactly like them. So anyway, we looked at Moses, and Moses had something in his hand. And we looked at how he had this staff. And we notice, it might have been just my interpretation of it, that he had been using the staff so long that he didn't even realize the value in it. Likewise, you and I, we know what that gift is, what that thing is. And if you don't know, we're going to figure that out over these Saturday mornings. But you know that there's this feeling that when you do that thing, it's almost like God, the Holy Spirit, is right there in your midst. And so Moses had this staff here, and he was so used to using it that when God said, "What's in your hand?" he just said, "It's a staff." But God illuminated that staff and asked him to throw the staff on the ground. And when he threw it on the ground, it turned into a serpent. And it says in the scripture, if you didn't see that video, there'll be links in this video that you can go back to and see the playlist. So when you look that he threw it on the ground and it turned into a serpent, and we looked at the scripture and it said, and Moses, two things, depending on what version you look at, it said Moses either ran or fled from it. So we demise that maybe the thing that's in our hand, that skill set, that work that we have been called to do, we may be afraid of it. But we know God does not give us a spirit of fear. So Moses, and so God had to, shake him up a little bit. He asked Moses to pick up the serpent by the tail. And that's what I think people, well, I just don't want us to miss the fact that picking up, you don't even have to be an expert at this stuff. Picking up a snake is probably not a good thing to do if picking up a snake by the tail. But he encouraged Moses to do it. Moses was obedient to that. He picked up the snake by the tail, and it turned back into a staff. So sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, we just have to get past our fears, our doubts, and also recognizing what we already have. So that's like a little recap of what we've done so far. So now we've gone enough time where we got enough people to be able to tune in and look. And so now class is now in session. Let's go ahead and get going. We have a session started right now. So today we want to talk about, as we continue to find, let me go back. No, let me go back. We talked about how knowing what's in our hand is so vitally important that we have a mission to discover, develop, and deploy. Y'all remember that? All right, don't forget, hey, if you didn't get it, just go back to the videos that you'll see in the links, and you can go back and look at the whole lesson. But we need to make sure that we discover it, develop it, meaning we take responsibility. We'll have a session about responsibility coming up soon. Take responsibility. And then here's the key. We have to deploy it so God's people can benefit. It's not just for you. What's in your hand is not just for you. It's for God's people and to further God's kingdom. So we have to do that. We have to discover, develop, and deploy. So y'all write that down. Make sure you got that in there. Okay. So today what I want to talk about is, as we start to uncover, discover what is in our hand, God will take what's in our hand and multiply it. Yeah, God will multiply it. So we're going to look at just a couple of situations where God would take what we have. It could be small in our eyes, but God can do miraculous things with what we have. If only we would believe, trust, and obey in the assignment. So we're going to talk about that too. Like, how do you discover what the assignment is? Stay tuned for that, because we're going to talk about the benefits of serving. That's not today, but that's coming up. The benefits of serving and how powerful that could be in us discovering what's in our hand. I think the best way to do it is to serve in various situations. I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to tell you what's going to, that's next time. That's coming up soon. So anyway, let's look at some things. God is a God of multiplication and a God of authority. So let's look at something. Let's look at a couple of things real quick here. All right, so let's bring up this Bible here. And I'm in Genesis chapter 1 and 26. So let me make sure you can see. Let me bring this up on the screen. Here it is right here. It says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have," here's a word, "dominion." I want y'all to remember that word. "Let us have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creepy thing that creeps on the earth." Here we go. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. Ladies, you don't get off the hook here. He created him male and female. He created what? Them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful," and there's the word, "multiply." And he said, "Fill the earth and subdue it." Subdue it. Here's that word again. "Have dominion over the fish of the seas, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." So there's a word that kept repeating in here, and that word is dominion. So I got some notes here for you. So the notes I have for you here is that word God in that scripture says to be fruitful and multiply. But he also said, thank you, Karen, Genesis 1:26. Thank you. He also said to have dominion, and it was mentioned twice in that, and within those couple of verses, he mentioned this part about dominion. Here's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. Dominion means to exercise authority. Exercise authority. It says to rule. Here's another word that it means: to dominate. To dominate. So here we go. You got, write these words down. It says to exercise, this is dominion, exercise authority, to rule and dominate. To dominate. So there's something connected with what's in your hand that God has given you, that if you focus on it. Now y'all got to understand, I'm not talking just to y'all. I'm talking, we are having this conversation because this is something I need to hear. I need to hear this as well. There is something that we have in us that we have been assigned to. There's a skill set, a work that we've been called to in ministry or the marketplace. And we are given dominion in that area. Y'all, do you understand how important this is to have dominion in the area and to dominate in that area? How that eliminates the need for competition and comparison. It actually gives you, it changes your thoughts from scarcity to abundance, because it's your assignment. And the way you do your assignment, no one does it the way you do it. Even if it's the same gifting. We'll talk about that, man. We got months of content. Karen, I hope you're ready. We got months, our team, I hope y'all are ready. We got months of content to share with you each and every Saturday morning. However, there's this thing that you and I do. You do your thing, there's a thing that I do, that when we tap into it, God will give us dominion and authority in that area. That is great news to know that we don't have to look and compare ourselves to others. All we need to do is stay close to God, read his word, and discover, develop, and deploy that one thing. And it may be a couple of things that he's gifted you with. We just need to go deep on that, develop that. So let's go into some more information, or let's look at a couple more scriptures that talk about or show us God in his multiplication way of doing things. So again, I have a couple of notes here. I want to go to And y'all, if you have your books with you just morning, your Bibles or tablets, let's go to 2 Kings, 2 Kings, chapter 4. Chapter 4, and let's just start from verse 1. Again, I got a little bit of information here I want to share with you this morning, so hang with me. And let me bring this up here. So this is a very, very classic example of God. Well, two things. Like in Moses, when we talked about Moses, this is an example of someone really not valuing what they have in their hand, number one. Number two, it's a good example of God multiplying what you have. So if you haven't, if you probably have already started reading, but let me get a sip here. All right. So let's dive into this. So this is a story. The prophet Elijah is, to me, he's walking through a city, a town, and then he's approached by a woman, a certain woman, it says. So here, let's go into it. It says a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophet cried out to Elisha, saying, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord." So this is a God-fearing man. However, and the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be slaves. So this lady, y'all got debt issues. I think this lady right here got some debt issues. Her 2 sons about ready to be taken away. So here's the question Elijah posed to her. So Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" So the first thing we need to do when we're in situations or trying to figure something out, let's take an inward look at what do we have in our house. Our house could be our physical house. Our house could be our vessel. What do we have? What skill set do we have that we can do something with, that can change our life around, that can make this year one of the best years that we've had? So let's go on. And she said, "Your maidservant has nothing." Here we go again with this devaluing. "Your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil." How many times do we have a skill set, a gift, a talent, something that the marketplace is looking for, something that ministry is looking for, and we say it's just this, it's just that? It is valuable to the kingdom. It is valuable to your growth. And not only that, if you really dive into it, that just thing that you're talking about, I just have a jar of oil, I just have a staff, I just have a ability to bake cakes in a certain way, I just know how to do landscaping, whatever that just is, other people see you do it and they marvel at how good you are. But we take that for granted. It's like, it's easy to do. It's simple. It's not that simple. It's just a gift to you. It may be simple to you, it may be simple to me, but it could be a clue to what's in your hand. So let's go on. So she said all she has is in her house is but a jar of oil. Let me move this out the way. Then he said, "Go borrow vessels from everywhere." Planning. Go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not gather just a few. He said, "Get ready. T.D. Jakes said, "Get ready. He said, "And when you've come in, you shall shut the door behind you." I never saw that. He said, "Once you get the vessels, shut the door behind you. You and your sons." Why am I sticking here? Something is there. It says, shut the door behind you. I'm hearing, hey, come on, get to work and stop, I think they call it now, like, go ghosting. Like, stop talking. We talked about that in one of the early videos. You're talking too much. So the prophet is telling her to go behind, shut the door behind her. Anyway, I don't know. That's just me. I'm just stuck there for a minute. I want to come back to that on my own. Then it says, "Then pour it into all those vessels and set aside the full ones." I'm reading on. So she went from him, obedient, she went and shut the door behind her. She started the ghosting. She said, I'm going to silently get my stuff together. I ain't got to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. She shut the door behind her and her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured it out. Now it came to pass, wrong thing, now it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there is not another vessel, so the oil ceased. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. There was a lot in this story. There's a lot in here. I'm going to leave it up just for a second. There's a lot in here. There is the thing of just silent, close the door behind you. You don't have to be telling everybody what you're doing. God has told you what to do. Go do what you got to do. Now, she did share it with a few people, her sons. They're close to her. So I'm not saying you don't have to tell anybody, but you don't have to tell everybody. And she had a lot of action taken. There was a book, just a title along this book called Action Has No Season. Action trumps intensity. You can be just, well, this is going to be it. This is the year. I'm going to do it this time. Come on, Doc, watch me. No. Let's see. Take the actions. Don't talk about it. What's the Nike logo? Just do it. So anyway, as we look at this, what we find out is, what we see is that all she had was just a jar of oil. Insignificant to her. But that one jar of oil got her out of debt and saved her sons from slavery. And they were able to have a profit and live. It seems to me that they lived peaceably after that. Classic example of not taking for granted what is already in your hands. Don't take for granted. Any comments, questions, or concerns, y'all just go ahead and put that in the chat there. And there's a beautiful example of God doing multiplication. All right, so that's just one. And I could go on and on and on. And I can't, but I could. The scriptures are so rich with examples of God multiplying what he's given you. The thing is the lens that you have. Do you have a lens of despair? The things, the sky is falling, the economy is going to be bad. You're so concerned about who's in the White House. It's where your lens focused on. What I want to focus on this season is really maximizing what God has placed in my hand. If we can do that, and we can just keep those jars just overflowing, and we can pay off all of our debts with that one little gift, that one little thing that's in our hands, and then we can live off the rest, that's a beautiful thing. All right, so there's another thing. Again, I'm just looking back and forth. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to make sure I give you what I got. I want to give you what I got. I don't want you to miss out on anything. All right, so here we go. So the next thing I have for you, and you know this story. If you don't, let's take a look at it. It is in John, the book of John. And let's go chapter 6. Yeah, y'all see the pericope, feeding the 5,000. So I think it jumps down to around chapter 9. Verse 9. So here's the backdrop of the story here. I got to say Pastor Jesus. Okay, I had a moment. All right, so here's the situation. So Jesus has this gathering of people that are coming to hear from him. He is coming to give a word. They are surrounding, and the disciples are like, man, what are we gonna do with these people? I'm paraphrasing. They're like, what are we gonna do with these people? And we don't have anything to feed them. And Jesus, gave them assignment to go buy bread. They said, we don't have enough money to buy bread. It's like it would take 200 denarii worth of bread. And that he's like, even that's not sufficient. And so, but in the crowd, so Jesus gave them instructions on have the people sit down, and as you read through this, and but at verse 9, okay, let me bring this up here. So I like bringing this up because I don't want y'all to be thinking I'm making up stuff. This stuff is better than soap operas. So in verse 9 it says, let me highlight it here for you. It's right here. It says, one of the disciples said, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves, and 2 small fish. But what are they among? Oh my God, here we go again, devaluing. I got to read it again. I can't believe that just popped. I can't believe this is happening again. Y'all, I'm up here learning some stuff today, y'all. It says, there is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. And the disciples said, but what are they among so many? Oh my God. There it is again, devaluing what's in the hand, and also not recognizing who you are with. They're with Jesus and they devaluing things. Okay, let me move on. So then it says, then Jesus said to them, make the people sit down. And there was much grass in the place. So the men sat down in numbers about 5,000. And Jesus, here comes the magic, in a sense. Here comes the blessings. Here comes when you take what's in your hand and work with it. Here's what happened. It said, and Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise of the fish. So he blessed the fish and the barley as much as they wanted. So they were filled. He said to his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost. Therefore, they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which was left over by those who had eaten. Yeah. And then it goes on and said, then those men, when they had seen the sign that Jesus did, said, this is truly the prophet who has come into the world. All right. That was a lot. But what we see here is, again, we just have this barley and fish. Again, they did not take what they had seriously in the presence of Jesus. Even Jesus is there and they still didn't take it seriously. Like, okay, what are we going to do with this barley and fish? But Jesus multiplied it and fed over 5,000 people. I say over 5,000 people because they were really just counting the men that were there. They didn't count the children. And it was the children that actually brought the food. Wait a minute. How you going to take somebody's lunch? Take a little baby's lunch. Take a little kid lunch. Isn't that crazy? But the kid gave it up willingly. I don't read in there where the kid was fighting. Give me my bread and fish back. Sound like the kid was saying, let's make it happen. That's what we need to do this season. Let's make it happen. Tell yourself, let's make it happen. All right, let me move on. I think I have some more, but I got one more I wanted to go over with, and that is in, excuse me, that's in Matthew's. And y'all know this story. This is in Matthew 25. And then we're going to jump down to what they call 14 through 30, the parable of the talents. So we just going right into it, the parable of the talents. So if you know this story, if you don't know this story, there's a master, and this man is getting ready to travel to a far country, He's getting ready to go traveling. And he ends up giving his disciples or servants talents. And he gave them different amounts of talents based on their abilities. So again, based on what you can do, based on what God has given you, that's why you don't have to compare yourself to anyone. This is based on you, God, and what God has put in you to do. So the story goes on that he gave one. Let me go to it. It says, let me not just read, and y'all not with me. Let me bring y'all into the picture here. It says, for the kingdom of heaven is like a man. This is a parable. It says, for the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on his journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went to, can y'all see that? Right there. Then he who received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5. He made another 5. Okay, he didn't have 5 and added 1. He added another 5. That sounds like multiplication to me. Then, and likewise, the one who received 2, gained 2 more also. He didn't receive 1 more, he received 2 more. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid the Lord's money. Okay, wait a minute. Let's stop there for a second. Let me come. He hid. Oh my God. Okay. I didn't write that stuff. The one who had the 1 talent hid it. He covered it up. He buried it in the ground. Okay. Are we doing that? Are we doing that with our gifts, our talents, what's in our hands? Are we putting it somewhere where we're so afraid that we're going to mess up, that we're not going to get it right, that we hide it? We don't open our mouths. We don't make that drawing, that painting that we know that's with us. Somebody said, man, just go ahead and do the painting, man. You got the talent, but we don't do it. We hide it. We can't be secret agents anymore. That's for the movies. We have to actually do what we've been called to do, say what we've been called to say, bless who we've been blessed to bless. We can't hide it anymore. Can I tell y'all something? This lesson right here has been good for me. As I'm reading through this, I'm like, man, what are we doing? Why do we take the gifts and talents and abilities that God has given us for granted? And I guess it's human nature. But the problem with this is that the one, and again, I'm paraphrasing the story here, the one who actually, when the ruler comes back, he's saying to them, and y'all can read this, he's telling them, good, good, you did good, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you rulers over many. And here it is right here. He said, you did good. The problem with this is the one. Now I just want to go to the one. Oh my God, the one who had the one. Here we go, right here. Then he says, then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I, here it is, there's the word. Let me see. And I was afraid and went and hid your talent. Stop right there. He said, I went and hid your talent. This is key, y'all, to remember going forward, that whatever gifts, abilities, work, skill sets, it is not ours. We are bond servants. We are stewards of what belongs to God. There we go. He said, I hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But that's not what the master wanted. The master wanted him to multiply it. But his Lord answered and said to him, you wicked. Okay, just so y'all can see, I'm not making it up. He said, you wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought, here we go. He said, you should have at least deposited my money with the bankers. What do bankers pay? It might be a little bit, but they pay interest. And interest, especially compounding interest, is a lot of multiplication. But then he said, take the talent. He said, therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talent. But the problem here is, it goes down here in number 30. It says, and cast the unprofitable servant. Let me highlight. And cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Gnashing. I've heard people say that word all different types of ways. But the thing that stood out to me in there, I don't know if you caught that. He said, I took your talent and buried it into the ground. That was key. Even though he messed up, he recognized where the talent, the gifts, the skill set, the ability, the ministry, the marketplace impact you're supposed to have comes from the Lord. All right. That is it for me today. Yeah, we are Stuart Karen. Thank you so much for your help this morning. Appreciate you. We'll get you in front of the mic here in just a moment. But I want to thank you again for coming out. If you're looking at the replay of this, you'll be able to catch the whole playlist and you'll be able to catch up. And if you have not subscribed to the channel already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't joined our email list, you might want to do that as well, so you can catch anything that's going on that may not be on YouTube. If we're somewhere speaking, we're in public, that may not be on YouTube. That may be in a email announcement. So you want to make sure you are assigned to our email list, our community. Well, that's it for me today. May your rest of your day be blessed. May your day be blessed. And I look forward to seeing you next Saturday morning, and we'll continue. In the middle of the week, I'll give you a hint of what we're talking about, but stay tuned, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. All right, now again, from Taking the Next Step here, our team, thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much for hanging out there with us this morning, and we will see you next time. Have a blessed week. Take care. Class is out.